Hello everybody, it's me. Yes, remember me? A while back I did a load of whiskey videos and I haven't done anything for a while, for which I apologise. I am now working for Gordon MacPhail and it's an absolutely amazing job, and what turned into a hobby, talking about whiskey on a daily basis and raising money for charity, has turned into a job which is talking about whiskey on a daily basis and getting paid for it. But unfortunately the hobby that I love turned into a job that I absolutely love, and basically took over my entire life, and I've been doing tastings and festivals and working like a dog, and just haven't had any time to be able to do any more videos. So with the best of intentions of trying to hit 500 and raise £10,000, unfortunately it all just fell by the wayside. But I am going to try. There's going to be no schedule to this. I'm not going to be doing anything like No Nonsense Whisky and Malt and Mike and Crash Test Dummies. That was a very good band. The Scotch Test Dummies, all that lot where you'll get regular videos from them. It's literally going to be when I can do it, I will do a video. But I need to do videos because I've had some really generous donations of samples from the likes of my good friend Andrew AP Butler. Pete James over in America sent me some samples, and I've sat on it for pretty much a year and not done anything with them. So it's only fair that at the very least I go through those and do a video of them, to give you some idea, and hopefully it'll steer me into actually trying to kind of get back into some kind of regular schedule of filming a video that I can actually get to 500, because it would still be quite nice to do it. So the first one that I'm going to do of this new run, for want of a better word, is this particular sample here. That was yet another batch sent by Andrew AP Butler. And this particular one, as you can probably tell from the label, is Italian. It was the first, and as far as I'm aware, the only Italian whiskey distillery in Scotland. I do apologise about the noise outside. Somebody has decided to do some drilling rather handily, but hopefully it's not going to detract from the enjoyment of this video. So it's at the moment it's the first and the only distillery in Italy. The distillery itself is here. It's right on the north. It's right by the boundary of Switzerland and Austria. It's called Puni, P-U-N-I, which is it's an ancient word. Now Scottish has Gaelic, and apparently in that kind of area of Europe there's something called I think it's Raetic language, R-A-E-T-I-C, and it's an ancient language. It's an ancient word, a bit like some of these distilleries that use Gaelic in their name, like Anarch and what have you. This is an ancient word from that region, and it's actually the name of the river which is their water source. Now, it was founded in 2010 by a husband and wife team called Albrecht and Daniela Ebensberger, and their two sons, Jonas and Lucas. And the distillery was purpose-built for the. They were very much into Scotch. I think Albrecht had been a sort of very top-end sommelier, so they were a family that were very interested in drinks, and they decided that they wanted to go into distilling. So it was purpose-built for them, but very, very stylish and very modern, as you will see. This is a picture of the distillery that was designed to. It was paying homage to barns in the area, and you'll see the holes in the wall. Basically, it's like intersecting bricks with holes in it to allow airflow. So that in barns, it was allowing airflow to dry everything, but it wasn't actually. It was still keeping some kind of heat in, and it was still keeping things dry. And it's a fantastic visitor centre. I've not been myself, but I'd love to. It's very, very funky. It's very cool. It's very modern. Everything is done on site. It's another one of these new distilleries where pretty much everything is local. Now, they don't just use barley. They actually use wheat and rye, and the rye is within miles of where the distillery is. But it's very, very cool. Now, the distillery itself, they have a warehouse, but they also use some derelict World War II bunkers as well. And where it is in the Alps, it's in one of the valleys, but it's subject to quite intense temperature changes. So it gets really quite hot in the summer, really quite cool in winter. And it's those temperature changes which actually really help with the maturation. And it's not massively dissimilar to Scotland. You know, you have mountainous regions in Scotland. Maybe it doesn't get quite as warm as it does in the Alps, but maybe not quite as cold either. But you still have these quite intense temperature changes through the year. So it's a very cool, very funky distillery, really interesting, new world, which is always good to come across. Now I have actually tried this one before. I was at the Newcastle Whisky Festival about 3-4 years ago and was on a stand helping out doing world whiskies, of which this was one. And it was actually when I just started a Dram A Day, and I tried to nab off with a sample of it, but I couldn't because they only had one bottle and it wasn't going to last the day. Now the bottle itself is incredibly beautiful. This is what the bottle looks like of the Alba, and it's stunning. It's eye-catching. Some people might not like it. They might think it's too modern, it's too cool type thing, not traditional enough, but I think it's absolutely beautiful. Top half of the bottle obviously emulating the still. Really nice clean lines on it. The labelling's very cool. So this is one of when they first launched it was actually two. This is Alba, which not only is Scottish Gaelic for Scotland but is also Italian for sunrise. So this particular one is 3 years in Sicilian Marsala casks, and then finished off in casks that have previously held Islay whiskey that have then been flown across from Scotland to finish off. I think it's about 3 months. It's not too long. They also had another one called, was it Sol? I've got this written down. No, sorry, Nova, which is Italian for new, I think. Maybe not. Which is a lighter style, and basically, let me check this down. It was 3 years bourbon, and then it was finished off in European oak. But they have last year released one called Sole, which is 2 years in bourbon and 2 years in Pedro Jimenez sherry casks. You're looking at about, well, Master of Malt have got this at 67 quid. Another website I saw had 67.6. So you're looking at about 65, 70 quid. And it's 3.5 years old. So they only released their first whiskey, founded in 2010. The first whiskey released in 2015. Time of recording, it's now March of 2018. So this is a very, very young distillery. It's a very young whiskey as well. I haven't got it, but I know that these bottles are 25ml anyway. So it's 43%, so I'm not going to add any water into it. But I do remember, and it was definitely the Alba that I had at the Whisky Festival that I was running the stand on, and I remember being very, very impressed by it. So let's give it a go. Let's see. Have I got any white paper? No, I do not. Have I got anything white? Not really. In terms of colour, it's a nice golden colour actually. Let me get it up to the light which is behind, and I'm hoping that I'm not going to get too much reflection in my specs, but it's a nice light amber, kind of, not quite gold. There's a bit too much brown in there, but it's not quite amber. It looks darker in the screen than it does actually me looking at it itself. I'm just trying to see if I've got anything white. There we go. Let me just grab this and I will see if that would help. If I can, I've got a bit of cloth and I need it for me, but if I do that and then that'll give you an idea. That's better. Maybe for the next video I'll have a nice little bit of paper on a stand, but that should give you an idea of the colour. Oh, gone a bit bright there. There we go. But nice, healthy, bright. I like it. Now, an unusual nose, because let me just clear my nose because it's cold outside and it's cold in this garage, which is where I am. It's a very unusual nose because you've got the clear influence of the Islay casks, so there's a slight smokiness to it, but it's not too overpowering. So I don't know what Islay casks it was, but I'm guessing it's probably something fairly heavily peated to make sure that you can get enough of an influence with the finishing from the cask. So there is a soft peatiness to it, and it's quite sweet, but I think the sweetness is the Marsala casks that it's been matured in as well. Now, I'm not a massive fan of Marsala. It's a bit like Madeira. It's a type of wine that I don't get. I'm not a fan of it. I'm not turned off it as much as I am on the likes of tequila, which I just cannot stomach. But Marsala and Madeira are two types of wine that there's something about the flavour that I don't click with, and Madeira cask whiskey, and it just doesn't quite click. But the sweetness is there from the Marsala, but it kind of goes with the smokiness, and the nose reminds me a bit of Bunnahabhain, that kind of soft, sweet peat that you get with Bunnahabhain. But it's very interesting. I've just realised they're not drilling, they're jet washing. Somebody's cleaning his car. It's one of the neighbours. One of the neighbours cleans his car religiously every weekend. And yet today is a Wednesday. Now this is a young whiskey, and you can kind of tell there's a sprightliness to it. Everything's a little bit tight. The smokiness that's on the nose isn't quite as full on as, it's not as prevalent on the palate. It's quite thick though. It feels quite thick in the mouthfeel. The sweetness is there. The smokiness is starting to come through now. And again, it's gentle, it's soft, it's quite distant. And I think that's because of it's a cask finish of Islay casks. So it's picking up a bit of a kind of smoked influence, but nothing it's not the barley that's doing it. They're not using smoked peated barley to make the whiskey, they're finishing it in the cask, so it's a much more subdued influence. It's quite a long finish, but there's not a lot on it, if that makes sense. So I can still taste something, and I think that's more the mouthfeel than the actual flavours that are in it. But it is quite rich in terms of weight in your mouth. It's very unusual. The sprightliness because of the youth. Because to be honest, if I tried this blind, I'm not sure I'd say it's 43 to start with. When you first put it into your mouth, it really fizzes, and there's a heat to it that it's not cask strength, but I would have maybe erred on 46, but I think it's more because it's youthful rather than the alcohol percentage, because it's 43. I wouldn't have picked this as a 43 if I was trying it blind. If I had this on a blind tasting, I don't think I would have said Scotch, but it's not obvious where it's from. It's got a sort of influence of like Bunnahabhain's the one I keep coming back to, because Bunnahabhain has this sweet peatiness to it. It's very, very pleasant. Now, Italians love aperitifs. One of the best-selling, or if not the best-selling whiskey in Italy is Glen Grant, but it's Glen Grant 5-year-old. And they love it really, really young. They like it in mixers, they like it as sort of shots before dinner. So I can see why they've done this so young, so sprightly. But there's a bit more of a depth to it than something like the Glen Grant 5-year-old. And to be honest, I don't think again, if you were trying it blind, I think you would probably put this at like an 8-year-old. It certainly isn't as tight and sort of undeveloped as you might expect for technically a 3.5-year-old spirit. It's particularly with that mouthfeel, particularly with that weight. It is very, very interesting, and it's something that is worth getting hold of if you can. Is it worth 67 quid? Possibly not, but it's the only Italian distillery that there is, as far as I'm aware. Probably won't be for very long, but the way the whiskey industry is going, but at the moment it is. It's a really nice bottle, so you are getting the package around it. You are getting something that on the shelf, whether it's full or empty, it looks amazing. It is a bit of a talking point. It's something unusual. It's well made. I'd be very interested to see what it's like at an 8-year-old, at a 10-year-old, but whether they have any intention to actually mature it for that long, given the market, the demand for young whiskies in Italy. You're not going to find much of this outside of Italy, simply because A, they're not a particularly big producer, and B, whiskey is very big in Italy, and if it's an Italian whiskey that is young and youthful, they're going to sell it in their home country anyway. But it is definitely worth picking up. It is not bad by any stretch of the imagination. It is very, very pleasant indeed. It's a springtime whiskey. It's a light whiskey. It would do in summer. If you're looking for something on a summer's day or a spring day, you're in the garden, the sun's out, it's nice and warm, and you fancy a whiskey outside with some olives and nuts, and you're having a little bit of tapas with some friends, that would do the trick, which I think is what they're aiming for. It's quite evocative almost of Italy, antipasti, that sort of thing. This would be really nice on an antipasti board. Very, very interesting. Different, unusual, but well worth checking out. So, I'm not going to tell you when the next video is, because I don't know when that's going to be. It could be next week, it could be next year, I don't know. But hopefully I will be able to get some more videos to you quicker than I have done. So, until the next one, I'll see you soon. Cheers.